Jesus Christ warned, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." This is especially true in time of war, but unfortunately, it describes our current government. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid made the headlines last week with his comment that directly stated America has lost the war in Iraq. Rather than being removed from his leadership position or even impeached for treason, the Senate rallied behind its leader. For the second time, they refused to fund the U.S. war effort in Iraq without attaching a timetable for surrender. Why? The only answer that makes sense is that the Democrats, who hold the majority, would prefer to appease the Islamic extremists rather than defeat them. Consider this. The Palestinian Authority is ultimately responsible for what is done in its name. But when Hamas ripped off the Disney character Mickey Mouse to indoctrinate preteens in jihad against Israel and America, the media focused its attention on Hamas, giving both the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian people a free pass. Hamas is part of the Palestinian Authority. In fact, it governs it. And it became part of the Palestinian government because the Palestinian people elected it. But blaming the people who are really responsible would just stir up more anti-American hatred. So appeasement seems to be the preferred course of action. And gasoline prices are way up. The culprits are mainly U.S. oil companies, but that doesn't explain why unrefined oil is 4 times what it was 6 years ago. For that, we'd have to look to the oil-producing Islamic world, which we are reluctant to do because we don't want them to turn the screws even tighter. The city of Jerusalem was founded by Israel's King David more than 3,000 years ago. With an overwhelming abundance of physical evidence and detailed historical records, Israel's historical title deed to the city would seem to be beyond dispute. But Islamic revisionists say that it's really an Arab city stolen from them by the Jews. And the world's governments are afraid to challenge even that. The Islamic world denies there ever stood a Jewish temple on the Temple Mount. And they make this claim with a straight face, even though any tourist can see the remains of the temple in a walking tour through the tunnels beneath the mount, as I've led many times, by the way. And they trotted out the denials when the tomb of King Herod, the Jewish ruler most responsible for the Jewish temple as it existed in Jesus' day, was discovered only last week by Jewish archaeologists. And when invited to celebrate Jerusalem Day with the Jews, even the United States refused Israel's invitation. And that in spite of the fact that Israel is the only country on earth which consistently, steadfastly, and unabashedly supports the United States. Washington treats it as much like a pariah state as the Europeans do. Even Israel's Independence Day on May 14th was all but ignored here in America, for fear that celebrating the birthday of our best friends on the planet might irk the very people with whom we're currently at war. Hey, it's surreal. We don't mind killing Islamic terrorists, but we sure don't want to make them mad at us by showing the only genuine ally any measure of respect. One almost expects on any given day to hear the news that the Senate has passed a resolution revoking America's 1948 recognition of Israel and demanding it be stricken from the UN's membership rolls. It's not much of a leap from there, declaring America's defeat at the hands of Al-Qaeda next March, to retroactively declaring an Islamic victory over the Jews in 1948. You know, it all depends on how scared we are. Should a more radical Islamic regime replace Bashar's government, Al-Qaeda could easily find itself in possession of nuclear weapons. If that happens, Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi will probably co-sponsor a bill extending Osama bin Laden honorary American citizenship. Is the West losing the war of civilizations with the Islamic world? Well, to be Clinton-esque, that all depends on how you define the word is. The goal of Islam is to bring the world into submission. The fact that the U.S., the EU, and other governments submitted to Islam by refusing to celebrate Israel's 40th anniversary of reuniting Jerusalem demonstrates that most of the Western culture is already submitting to Islam. To Islam, that is victory.